The Jeff Younger Show is on, dedicated to my sons, James and Jude. Authenticity, specifically the lie that authenticity means expressing yourself without regard to content or the situation, is a huge problem. The modern understanding is totally bankrupt. It treats being real as synonymous with ignoring everyone and everyone around you. But that's not authenticity. That's narcissism dressed up as virtue. The classical rhetoricians had a concept called kairos, usually translated as the opportune moment, sometimes it's translated as the occasion, but it's deeper than that. Kairos is the convergence of three things: the speaker, the audience, and the occasion. You cannot understand what's appropriate, what's authentic, by looking at any one of these things in isolation. Authentic action, authentic presentation, being authentic, emerges from the intersection of all three of these things. Let me give you an example. You attend a funeral. What does authenticity require? The modern view says, hey, express what you actually feel. If you feel like cracking jokes, crack jokes. If you feel like wearing shorts, wear them. Anything else is just being fake. That's bullshit. The occasion makes claims on you. The audience, grieving people, the circumstances of remembering a life that is over, these all have legitimate expectations and claims on you. Your role is not to broadcast your internal state without filtering. That's bullshit. Your role is to honor the dead and support the living. Authenticity means conducting yourself in a way that genuinely fulfills what this situation with these people at this moment actually requires. The same man attends a baseball game, say, 2 days later. Now, loud cheering, casual dress, ribbing with his friends, that's all authentic. Not because he's a different person, but because the convergence of speaker, audience, and occasion have changed everything completely, okay? Now, some of you out there going, but doesn't that mean I'm just pretending to be somebody I'm not? Am I just telling me to fulfill my social roles like a slave? No, I'm not. And this is the core confusion. You think authenticity means having no filter between your internal state and your external presentation. That's not what authenticity is. That's just like a kind of emotional incontinence. It's like peeing your pants all the time. The inability to modulate yourself based on circumstances is not a virtue. It's a failure of self-command, and it is a terrible weakness in a person who's past the age of 18. It's really a weakness in anyone past the age of 50. T.S. Eliot, the great poet, addressed exactly this problem in an excellent essay called The Individual Talent, Tradition and the Individual Talent. He argued that true individual talent only becomes meaningful inside of a tradition, okay? The poet who simply expresses raw personal emotion without reference to shared standards is producing something that may be sincere, but it's ultimately just meaningless noise. The way Eliot puts it is pretty harsh. Quote, poetry is not a turning loose of emotion, but an escape from emotion. It is not the expression of personality, but an escape from personality. Now that sounds like the opposite of authenticity to a lot of you, because you've been miseducated. It sounds that way if you've been brought up in the modern lie of expressive individualism. But think about what Eliot is actually saying. Random self-expression isn't meaningful individuality. It means nothing. A child screaming is an expression, is an individual expression of himself, right? A child, a 2-year-old pulling down his pants and pooping in the kitchen is expressing himself, okay? But he's not communicating anything beyond, hey, I have feelings and I want to do something. Okay, it's this kind of self-expression and self-authenticity that you've been taught is bullshit, and it's childish, and it's time you put it away. Think about language itself. You could invent your own private language that would express your inner feelings. You could change the words to the words that you want, right? It would be maximally authentic in the sense that it comes purely from you, but would also be completely meaningless because no one could understand it. Real communication requires submission to shared standards, grammar, vocabulary, conventions of meaning, conventional idioms. Without those constraints, you can say anything. Okay. Shakespeare worked within the constraints of English. He even constrained himself further with certain rhythmic structures like iambic pentameter that were required of theatrical conventions at his time. And those constraints didn't limit his individuality. They made it possible for us to encounter his individuality across 4 centuries. Tradition and community standards are the only background with which you can express your individuality. Otherwise, you're just a toddler taking a shit in the kitchen, being an asshole. The tradition, the community, and the occasion. They're not obstacles to you being expressive of your inner self. They're just a medium through which your authentic self becomes visible and meaningful. The man who shows up to a funeral in appropriate attire isn't being fake. He's authentically fulfilling his role as a mourner. He's communicating respect for the dead and solidarity with the grieving. And that communication requires a shared vocabulary. Part of the vocabulary is the way you dress, the way you carry yourself, the way you talk in these occasions. And within that vocabulary, he can certainly express his individuality, the particular cut of his suit, the particular words of comfort that he chooses to give people, the way he chooses to give comfort, what he speaks about the dead. But the vocabulary that he uses has to be shared, or he's not communicating anything. He's not even an individual. He's not even an individual. He's just a guy in the wilderness all alone doing whatever he wants. And frankly, that just communicates contempt. What happens if you just consistently do this? What happens if you just can't discipline yourself and conform to at least the minimal requirements to have a shared vocabulary with your community? You're going to, well, at best, you'll be unintelligible, but at worst, people are going to just hate you. They're just going to stop trusting you because they say, what is this guy doing? I can't predict what he's going to do. And I don't understand what he's trying to tell me or what he's about. And since I can't understand it, I'm just going to assume he's being a fucking asshole. They'll stop inviting you because you're just some kind of weird liability. They'll stop listening because your self-expression is just disconnected from shared context. It's just like static noise in the background. It's just annoying as hell. Okay? This is the practical consequence of the lie of modern authenticity you were taught. Young men are told to just be themselves without any instruction in what situations require. So they go through life being themselves in ways that alienate and confuse other people. And then they wonder why they're not respected. They wonder, hey, why am I not trusted? Why am I not advanced when other people are? Okay? The man who masters kairos, the occasion, who understands that authenticity requires reading the speaker, the audience, and the occasion together, the man that can take the community shared vocabulary and standards and use that as the medium to communicate his own individuality, that is a formidable and effective man right there. People will trust that man because he responds appropriately. People will follow him because he understands context. People will respect him because he shows respect to occasions, to others, and to the shared standards that make the social life possible anyway. What's the bottom line I'm getting to, man? Authenticity is not solipsism. It's not being a toddler taking a shit in the kitchen. Being yourself doesn't mean ignoring everyone else and everyone around you. That's infantile behavior. That's not manly behavior. Real authenticity requires that you understand the speaker, the audience, and the occasion. Your genuine self becomes meaningful only within that shared space. And those frameworks are not constraints in any way on your individuality. They're the medium through which you will communicate your individuality in ways that other people can understand and react positively to. Learn to read the occasion. Let your authentic self emerge from the convergence of who you are, who they are, and why you're together in the first place. That's what authenticity actually is. The Jeff Younger Show, signing off.